everyone, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Album. So what I have to show you is Love is in the Air mini album in a box. Now this collection is available from Country Craft Creations. I cut part of the cover page of the mini album, as I do so many times. It's really a fabulous paper collection. It's got airplanes and hot air balloons and airmail and that kind of thing for Valentine's Day. It includes a sheet of cut-aparts. These are tags and a sheet of cut-aparts. And it really was a fun collection to work with. So let me show you what it is I made. I actually made this heart-shaped box. I used my Cricut to cut out lots of hearts and then just figured out how to make the box. That is in a tutorial. I do have a tutorial following me showing you the project. And I tell you some other alternatives if you don't want to make the box. So here is the little mini album. It is made, the base is 7 pieces of 100 weight Artisan cardstock. I could have used lightweight chipboard, but I decided just to use the cardstock just so it's easier for my Cricut to cut. And then I put on both sides, the front and the back, some of the paper. Now this was a cut apart from the collection, and this I cut from one of the pages. Probably should put a couple of little hearts or something on there. And I left this so you could either write something or put a photograph. It would go either way. This is obviously for journaling, but you could still put a photo there. I love this We Belong Together. And these paper airplanes are popped up. This I did cut apart from the paper. Just cut it myself. I loved this airmail postage stamp. I love this stamp with the feather, so I sort of kept that. This was one of the cut aparts, and here's another 3x3 photo mat or place for you to journal on. Again, a 3x3 piece. This is popped up, and this is open, so if you wanted to put a photo, you could. I didn't want to do anything to cover the gorgeous lady. I think she's pretty cute, so I left that. Excuse me. This was a cut apart, and I really had a hard time deciding if I wanted to cover it. That's what it looks like uncovered, and I was going to originally just keep this as the final page, be my Valentine, and I guess there's nothing keeping me from putting that on there. But I did end up putting some white paper on there so you could put a photograph or journal something. Another idea I had was making this 10 things I love about you, or 10 things I like about you. And you could write something on each of the page or put a photograph saying you're fun to go hiking with, or whatever you want to say. So this was another cut apart. It was that one, and that is pretty cute too, but I did cover that up with some pink paper to let you use what you want to use with it. This was a gorgeous cut apart, and since that the airplane and balloon is on my cover, I just sort of kept that alone and left that as a little tuck spot. And here is one of the cut aparts. And here's the final page. This of course is open on the side. Loved how these two sort of go together. And then here's the final page. So why don't you stay tuned, and we will do the tutorial right now. Okay, so now I'm going to get into making the little flip mini album. I've cut out a series of hearts, some from heavyweight white cardstock and some from the patterned paper. Sort of matched it up so I know what's going to be on the front and what's going to be on the back. So I'm going to go ahead and glue them all together off screen and then talk a little bit about how I'm going to decorate it. So that's all of that. I was going to use a piece of chipboard for the cover, and I have a piece left over that's a little bit too large, so I just may not do that. I've got an extra 100-pound white cardstock heart, so I might just glue those together to make it just a little sturdier cover than everything else. So I will let you know what I do with that. Now I have made this heart box, and the directions are going to follow on that also, but it's a more involved project and it didn't come out perfectly. I mean, I muddled through, and if you want a challenge, then by all means follow the tutorial that follows, but there's a lot of cutting, a lot of gluing, a lot of just making sure things work out perfectly. So anyhow, I did do a tutorial, so you can follow that if you wish. Otherwise, buy yourself a box of chocolate, eat all the chocolate, and there you go. And I've also seen at, you might be able to buy an empty box. So I think I'm going to layer the light blue with the circles on it with the airplanes. I'm going to take a look at the cut aparts first and decide what's going to go on the cover of the box. And the same with the cover of the mini album. I want them to sort of match a little bit. So let me work on gluing everything together, and then let's see what I have when we're all done. I've gotten everything done. I mean, the pages are all glued on, and I still have a little bit of embellishing to do, just the final details. So what I'm going to do now is make the hole in the pages for the ring. So I made the first two, and all I'm going to do is continue to go through, just try to get them as straight as they can be. And I've got 2 holes. Now I have 3 pages, and I'll take off 2 and get that in, get it as straight as can be, and do another one. Take off another one. Actually, I can do 2 more at once. So there we are with all the holes punched. And let me put the ring on there, and then we'll do our final embellishing. So I put the ring on. Now this is a 1 1/4 inch ring. A 1-inch ring would do fine, but I didn't have any in my stash. And then I added some seam binding and just some assorted ribbon that was also in my stash. I wish I had some light blue, but I didn't. I just crumpled it together and just tied a big knot and tied it to that. So that is the final little mini album using Love is in the Air paper collection from Country Craft Creations. It fits nice in here. You could also add some chocolate to the bottom. Maybe put in the chocolate, put a layer of paper, and then put the mini album. And then there's the cover. So it came out okay. So thanks so much for watching. The paper is available at countrycraftcreations.com. I will put a link in the description box below for the paper, the lightweight chipboard, and the measurements on the Cricut. You'll probably have to just cut out what I put and then maybe cut out an extra one or two. You can always make an extra card. Okay, to make the box, you're going to need 2 pieces of cardstock that are 2 1/4, 12 inches by 2 1/4, 2 pieces of lightweight chipboard that are 10 3/4 by 1 3/4. You'll need the 2 hearts cut from Cricut, and those measurements for the chipboard and all the hearts to go on the chipboard are in the description box. And then you'll need 2 pieces of paper that are 1 by 12. Let's start with the 1 by 12. Grab my scoreboard. And I'll turn this over. Well, it doesn't matter. We're going to score it with the short side at the top at 1/2 inch. And then rotate. And for one of them, you're going to score at every inch. 1 inch, 2 inch, 3, etc. All the way across. Oops. Okay. And then the other piece, score with the short side at the top at 1/2 inch. And then rotate and put the long side at the top, and now here you're going to score at every 1/2 inch. Alright, put that aside for a little bit. Take your 2 1/4 by 12 and score that at 1 3/4. Short side at the top, score at 1 3/4 for both of those. Okay, now we're gonna do a little bit of creative cutting. Let me move my... Alright, let us start with the piece that's 1 by 12 that has the score lines every inch. And I'm going to draw it here just so you can see, because it's a busy paper. Does that help any? Can you see it better? Alright. So what you're going to do is you're going to put a little triangle. You're going to cut a little triangle out of one side on every other inch. So we'll do one. So just a little triangle. Not anything crazy. Then skip one and do the next. Skip one and do the next. So do that all the way up the paper. And then turn it around and do every other one that you missed on the other side. So it'll sort of, just do every other one so they're not opposite each other. Because if you did every one that's opposite each other, you'd be cutting right through the paper. And I'm just going to miter that on the ends as well. Okay, now this one that has every 1/2 inch, you're going to do the same, but you're going to have a lot more cuts in it because you're going to be making a triangle every inch instead of every 2 inches. So do one, skip the 1/2 inch, and do the next. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then start on the other side and do opposite. I mean, if you cut on the left side, then don't cut on the right. If you don't have a cut on the left side, then have a cut on the right. Alrighty. Making sure they've all come out. Okay. So we have those two pieces. Now, with this piece, we're going to just guesstimate. And here we're going to just go about every inch and make a little notch up to that score line. So on the 1/2 inch side, just make a notch up to that score line. Do your best not to go over it. Alright, on one of them, you're going to do about every 1/2 inch. Okay, so we have these 4 pieces. Now in addition, you'll need a couple of pieces. You'll need 4 that are about 1 inch wide. And you'll need to fold them in half. Okay. All right, now something else I need you to do is take your 10 3/4 by 1 3/4 lightweight chipboard, and I want you to, if you have a spritz bottle, that would work best. If not, then a damp piece of fabric or cloth. And this is leaking. And what I want you to do is spritz it with water on both sides. You don't want it soaking wet, but you do want it moist. So that needs a little bit more. and let it sit for just a minute while I clean this off. And then take something round that's going to be about the size of this. Now I'm using this glue bottle. It's a little small, but it'll be okay. And what I want you to do is gently, you want to be very careful that you don't make a crease in this chipboard. Wrap it around and then grab a rubber band and put it on, and we're going to let that dry. Maybe half an hour, or you can even leave it overnight. So once that's dry, then you can use it. In the meantime, I am going to take this pattern paper that has the cutouts, and I am going to fold it in half, which you should have a score line at the 6-inch, and then burnish on these folds as well. All right, I am using the edge of my scoreboard as an implement to help keep everything straight. The first thing we're going to do is take the one chipboard that is not being rounded, and we're going to score that. And it's going to be hard to score because it's pretty strong. Let's score it at 5.5. And bend it. All right, add glue. To about 3/8 of an inch on one side. And then take that and go to about where the halfway mark is. It's going to overlap. Push down and then push against your scoreboard or whatever flat surface you use. All right, once it's on there, then go ahead and burnish. So we've got the other side will show. All right, once your chipboard is dry, gently work it and score that in half as well. And bend it. And take your little piece that's got the 1/2-inch lines on it and fold those and burnish those as well. All right, so determine where the halfway mark is. Open it up. add glue. All right, so we've got it folding that way. All right, and determine where the center is. And very gently work it. You don't want to move your little pieces. So here, this didn't line up perfectly. I'm just going to grab a scissors and just cut that right there. No big deal. Okay. All right, now we've got this other piece. I'm going to fold it and burnish it. Whoops. And I'm going to so this one, you have the little pieces sticking out on the left hand side. You're going to glue this so the little pieces will be sticking out on the right hand side and going folded down. So we'll add glue to this. Put that in place. And then glue these little tabs down. And burnish that down real well. Run the bone folder across the top also. All right, so here's my little rounded piece. I'm going to add glue to the inside curve. And put this with my little tabs coming up. And push it all the way down. And now put glue on the tabs. And bend them. this one is where it folds, so I want to make sure that I've got that in place. All right, so we've got these two pieces. And we've got our heart. So I'm going to just do this a little bit at a time. I'm going to make sure that this goes right into where that heart is, where the top notch of the heart is. All right, once I know it's going to fit, then I'll add glue. And put that in. And then work my way around with the other notches. I got one side done, and I'll gently work the other side. All right, now this has a bend in it. Make sure the notches stay in. All right, don't put the last notch down on the inside piece, and determine exactly where these two pieces are going to match and cut the chipboard so half of it is going to be underneath that one notch. So the notch is here, the chipboard's going to go here. I'm going to cut it right there, so only half of the chipboard is under the notch and it matches up with the other piece of chipboard. And that's where the other 1-inch pieces come to play. You're going to add them to sort of seal where those two pieces of chipboard match up on the outside. I guess I only needed 2 of them. Another way to do it is oh, that matches up perfectly. Almost. Gonna trim a little bit off here just to make sure it fits. It's okay if it's a little less than what you need, because you can use this 1-inch piece. I'm going to add glue here to attach them. Okay, and here you see I have worked the paper all around. This is where the 2 pieces of chipboard were joined. I made sure all these were glued down as flat as possible. Use my bone folder to work everything in here. There's a little scrunch of paper right there, but that's okay. So now I'm going to take 2 strips of 1 3/4 inch to put on the outside. And so I'll add a good amount of glue to the top and bottom especially, and then work this around. I want to go a little bit over the corner here, so I'll probably I'll grab my scoreboard and score it there. And when I get up to this part, I will do my best to try to crease it right there so it fits in there, or maybe even have the 2 pieces end right there. Should I do that? No, I think my best bet is to make sure it creases. So let me take my bone folder and score it at the end. I'm just scoring it at 1/2 inch. And I'll fold it so this will, should I fold it that way? This will start here, and then I'll work it around, and I'll cut it as I get there. Let me add some glue here to start it. Now this is not going to be perfect. I have resigned myself to the fact that this is not going to be perfect. But you know what? It's going to be pretty darn good. Alright, so I stopped gluing here, and I'm going to pull it around. You know, and this is where it's going to come to that top bend. I'm going to take my bone folder and fold it. So now I'll just finish gluing the rest of it. I want it to go right up to the top. So we'll put glue right up the top and use my bone folder and burnish it and just push all the glue to the very edge. Add a bunch of glue there because that's where it's going to stop. Glue to the bottom. And this Country Craft Creations paper is really good, especially if you add glue and it gets a little wet. I mean, don't forget, it's like wood pulp. And if you add moisture to that, it's going to help maneuver it a little bit more. So I want to go right in between the two edges. And I'll grab my bone folder in a second. I'm just manipulating it still with my fingers. I really want to work it into that crease. Okay. There's a little piece of paper coming up here. I'm just going to add a touch of glue to it and fold it down. Alright, so one side's done. Let's do the other side. So I'll do the same. I'll fold it so it'll go over this part. And then I'll just continue to work it around. You know, and I've realized if you use a busier paper, I may have mentioned it before, but if you use a busier paper, it hides more of the imperfections. I won't call it mistakes. We'll just call it imperfections. And I'll add glue to here. Pull it to there. And I suppose here could have cut it. All right, now I'm going to take, so I have this piece which could go on the bottom, and that looks pretty good, but I'm going to put this one inside. I'm going to do a dry fit first, and use my little pokey tool to get it out, just anything with a point. And when I know exactly how it's going to go, I will add some glue and put it in. All right, I will put glue all around the edge here. Should I have covered this first? I guess you could have. Either way. I'm also going to add just a little glue around here. I know I have glue around the edge there, but if it doesn't go in perfectly and it needs to get bent up at the sides where the bottom meets the sides, if this is a little, if there's glue there, it's going to help that work. And there we go. All right. All I have to do is cover the bottom, and I'll do that in a second once I know what paper I have left. I don't even need to clip this because it stayed on real well. Well, maybe right here I'll clip it. All right, I'm going to put this aside and we'll work on the top. Okay, now we're going to make the top of the box. So I have another heart, and this is cut out a little bit larger than the heart I made. I think I made it 1/4 of an inch larger. I probably could have made it a little bit bigger than that. Maybe 3/8 or even 1/2 an inch larger, just so it's not going to be snug. I have 2 pieces of chipboard that are 1 inch by 12. I've already scored at the 6-inch mark and folded it. One's going to be for the bottom, one's going to be for the top, and I'll end up cutting some of this off. And like the other one, one that's going to be for the top, I'm going to moisten and put around a bottle, my glue bottle. So I'll be doing that. I think what I want to do in this case possibly is get some of the paper on and then fold it, but we'll see when we get there. So I'm going to move that aside and we'll make that first. Then I've got a 1.5, 2 1.5 by 12 inch pieces, 2 1 inch by 12 inch pieces, and then I didn't have enough to make 12 inch pieces, so I made 2, they're probably 7 inch, but I'll end up cutting them down. So it's 1 inch by 7, but if you have 12 inch, do 2 more 12 by 1. And these I'm going to do the same way I did as the bottom. We're going to score half of it at every 1/2 an inch and half of it at every inch, and we're going to cut it cattywampus? Is that a right word? So let me get my scoreboard and let's do some scoring. Where is my, here it is. All right, so the pieces that we're going to cut cattywampus, that's a word my husband uses, I'm going to score with the short side at the top at 1/2 an inch. And then one I've already, this one we're going to score every 1/2 an inch. One I've already done at every inch. So 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2, all the way to the end. Oops. Well, that's the 6-inch mark. Okay. And then I'll show you how to cut those in a second. The 1.5 inch piece, I already have done this, but we'll do it again. Score at 1. All the way down. And then if you want, if you're not sure of your ability to guesstimate where measurements are, I'm going to score up to that score line at 1/2 an inch, just so I know about where to put my little cuts. Now you don't have to do this, and it really probably doesn't need to be exactly at 1/2 an inch, but let's do it because it's here. And this one will be at every inch. And let's score this one right at 6 inches all the way down with the long side at the top, just so we know that's where the bottom is going to be. All right, let's grab our scissors and do some scoring. We'll start with the pieces that we scored every 1/2 an inch. So I'm going to take my scissors and cut a little triangle using that score mark as a guide every inch on both sides, but we're going to do it opposite. So I'll do it at 1/2 an inch, 1.5, 2.5 on this side. The other paper was really busy, and I don't know if you could see it, so hopefully this isn't so busy. And the reason I put that 1/2 inch line all the way down is just so we can know where to stop. Alright, so now here we're going to do the opposite one. So we're going to go, see, I don't have the cut there, so I'm going to have the little triangle opposite. Because obviously if I had the cut here, it might go all the way through because we want to cut up to that 1/2 inch mark. Try not to go over it. I mean, if you do, it's not the end of the world. Alright, so there's that. And then the one that's got every inch mark, I'm going to do the same thing. So on this side, we'll make a triangle at 1 inch, at 3, at 5, and I'll just miter that. So now I turn it over and you see it starts at 1 again, 3, and 5. It's because you don't need as much mitering on the straight parts of the box. Alright, I'm going to put those aside, and I'm going to glue 2 together. Alright, so here, this is the part that will start at the bottom of the heart. So on this one, at every inch, I'm going to miter. Probably don't need to do it on the long section, but it'll help you when you fold this over, because this is going to be the part we fold over the edge of the box to cover the edge. On one I tried to just use a marker, and I think you could have used paint, but it just was easier and looked better if we just put the paper over it. Now you don't want to put the paper over it after you put the paper on, because you want to cover most of it. Alright, so here it's every 1/2 inch. Alright, let's start with these pieces, the 1.5 inch with the little lines on it. And this is the piece for the bottom of the heart. And I've already scored this at 6. And again, I'm going to grab my scoreboard because I find having something straight to work against helps immensely. And I'm going to fold and burnish, keep all these little tabs down. And so I folded that down. I'm going to take my 1 inch by 12 inch piece, add some glue to the bottom. Make sure I line up the 6-inch mark where I've scored it. Nope, I did it the wrong way. Like this. So I have the tabs here. Let me show you. So see, the tabs are going to the left. That's going to go up against the scoreboard. And I will fold that like that. Push it up against there so it can be pushed all the way down and all the way up to the side so that the little tabs are on the chipboard. And it will fold perfectly to cover the edge of the okay. So I ended up cutting this one piece down to about 1 inch. This was 1.5, and I'm going to just simply take my scissors and cut this. I just realized, so if I left it the way it is, it doesn't go all the way to the bottom. It's got a 1/16 of an inch showing. And I can take my other 1 inch and put it on top, but that's just more, it is more bulk than I want it to be. So I'm just going to cut this off a little bit. Just cut it right in the middle. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to cover it. I suppose the other thing I could have done, instead of making it 1.5 inches, I could have made it 1.5 plus a 1/8 of an inch or a 1/16 of an inch, but I didn't think of that. I'm going to now glue this down. Run a bead of glue along the top as well. Fold it over, making sure it's tight, you know, pulling it up against this edge. I'll take my bone folder and hit it up against the top here, and we'll just let that dry. This one, so this is one that I cut at 1.5, and then I have all these little tabs. This is going to be for the top of the heart. Fold all those over. So I'm going to fold them over and then burnish. There's a couple of these teeny little triangle pieces that I'm going to fold over too, because they're going to help cover the chipboard. Going to take it and put all the little tabs going to the right up against the side of my scoreboard. Add some glue on the chipboard. And push it up against there. It's down as far as it can be. Move my scoreboard out of the way. Take my bone folder. This one boy ended up inside here. Come here. Okay. All right, now I'm going to add some glue to the edge. So if I have any little ends, it'll all flatten. And then add some glue here. Remember, this is just to cover the edge of the chipboard. This is not a piece that's going to hold everything together. I am using this new non-stick bone folder. And the great thing about this is, oh, so many good angles and curves to it. It really comes in handy. And the thing is, like here, I'm going to get a lot of glue on it. It will come clean. If you wipe it when it's dry, that's fabulous. All right, and this one, it has a little fold here. I'm going to fold it. Alrighty. Okay, so this is going to be the top of the heart, so there's more rounded edges. And I am going to be taking this piece that's cut all cattywampus and putting it on here, because this is going to attach this piece to the top of the box. I'm going to glue these two together, because you should have just one piece, but I had two. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'll fold it. Burnish it. Put it against my scoreboard. Open these up. I may end up cutting some of this. And then this is how I want it. So I will add glue to here. And find a good spot, somewhere where there's a crease. I'll do half at a time, and then the other half. Push down hard so it sits on there. And then I'll add glue to the edge of the chipboard. And we're not folding these up, but we're going to add this where's my go ahead and miter right there. All right, now add some glue to this part. Start there. The corners are the hardest part to get correct. So I'm pushing it into the corner here. Luckily it's a little moist, so it's got a little give to it. And it's right where it needs to be. So now I will carefully add some more glue to these tabs and just work it a little bit at a time. I'm not going to add glue to that last one. Alright, I put glue on here first. I'm just going to pull it around the chipboard. And push it down on the table. Make sure it's snug up against the chipboard. Same for the other side. Okay. I'm going to burnish. So that's okay. Alright, so this piece now, I'll let that dry for a little bit. Actually, I'll grab my little clips. And no, it's not all the way. I'm grabbing my clips and just holding it in place. Let that dry for a little bit. Okay. And work on this one. I have these two pieces I will glue together. Again, here you should have just one piece. Add some glue here. I guess last time I glued this. Alright, this is the inside. That's the outside. Put the glued end towards the scoreboard. And push it up. Okay. All right. I will make a little indentation right there because this is the bottom point of the heart. So it's got to fold like that. I need a bigger indentation than what I have. There we go. All right. Now I'm not going to add glue yet because I want to cut the chipboard where the two chipboard pieces meet. So I need to see exactly where that's going to be. And mark it. Okay. Going to cut the chipboard straight down. including the tab. Now I've got little scraps of paper that I'm going to glue on here so I can attach this chipboard. Oops. To the other chipboard. It's about 1.5 by 3/4. Probably could have been 1.5 by 1. But I didn't want it too big. And all right, so now I'm going to fold that out of the way. I will add glue. I'm going to bend that down. I want glue on the bottom here and right on the edge, because this chipboard, this piece is going to go up against the chipboard of the heart. And then add some glue to the tabs. This isn't as critical because it doesn't have as much round area, and we've already dry fitted it. All right, I'm going to cut this piece off. Put glue at this tab where the chipboard's meeting. If it doesn't meet perfectly, that's okay. We're going to hide all mistakes. So here we'll add glue. Actually, I'm going to take that. This isn't fitting well, and I think it's because I need to cut a little more chipboard over here. So I'm going to cut off that piece. Much better. And then glue this tab again. Okay, so it fits real nice inside. Now I'm going to take my bone folder and gently push around there. This flap is coming up. So I'm just going to add a couple little slits. any place where it's not pushed down. I'm going to add some glue, because when we cover this I want it to look as flat as it can, because this is actually going to be the top of the box. Alright, so I've got a little, see how this comes out a little bit? No worries, I'm just going to take my scissors and one of these little pieces of paper, I'm going to cover. And here where that joins, there we go. Alrighty. So now I have two pieces of 1 inch by 12. I really should have 4. One for the outside and one for the inside. So I'll go ahead and put the paper on the inside. I'm going to first fold this one in half, just so it fits here. And so I said 1 inch, it needs to be, because if it's 1 inch you'll see it shows a little bit. Why doesn't the camera ever focus when I want it to? So I'll trim that down a little bit. This will work well for the outside. So I'll put this one on the outside and then go back in and cut a piece. Probably 2 pieces, 12 by 7/8 or 12 by 15/16, and glue it down. So that's what I'm going to do now. Add some glue to here. So I have the paper folded. I'll start there. Pushing it down against the table. As I put this down, I realized I probably could have inked up the edges. And, you know, maybe I could do that when I'm done, but it's not a big deal. All right, I'm going to add glue to the rest of this piece. That doesn't look too bad. So I cut this one 15/16. And probably could have cut it even less. This one, you see that shows a little bit. So a little less than, how about 1 and 1 7/8. Fold this in half so it goes right down at the bottom. Yeah, 1 7/8 is the magic number. The secret, I think, is adding enough glue and then manipulating it, bending it, folding it. Once you add enough glue, especially with Country Craft Creations paper, I don't know about other brands, but now you can push it together and you don't see the edges showing. If you guys haven't used the Country Craft Creations paper, you owe it to yourself to try it. You can wrap your mini albums with it. You don't have to wrap it with chipboard first. You could just wrap it with the paper. It works wonderfully. Alrighty. There is that. And once this dries, with all that glue on it, it will dry a little stronger. So don't be scared of using glue. Alright, now I've cut some plain paper. I'm just dry fitting it. It's going to work. Grab my little pokey tool, take it out, and add some glue. I use plain blue cardstock here. I didn't have to. I could have used pattern paper. But I just cut out 2 pieces when I was cutting out the paper to cover this box. And just figured just make it easier. Let us cover that. So once you put everything on it, this piece is a little bit too small to cover all the edges. And I think what I'll do, I mean, you could do one of 2 things. You could just take your box and put it down on the paper and trace around it and cut it. Which I guess I could do. This one too small. That's way too small. This piece is exactly the same size as the chipboard. I'm going to take some Distress ink. Oh, that's really dark. I don't want it to be that dark. So I don't think I'll do that. How about white? Let me use another remnant. Will the white go on thick enough? Yeah. So if I ink with white, that looks good on there. If I had a heart-shaped doily, that would look really cool too. All right. How does that look? Any better? Yeah. All right. I am going to show you me decorating the cover. First of all, I used Distress ink in Picked Raspberry and Weathered Wood, and both those colors go really well with this collection. I used the Weathered Wood for outside this piece. You notice I messed up there, but you know what? You won't notice it when it's done. And before I put this on, I know I had another paper here as the border, but I decided this is such a cute little border strip and it fit perfectly on the edge, so I'm going to keep that there. Now this is going to go on top here, so I'll add glue to that. And incidentally, I know I tell you all about the good things of this paper. One of them is how well it takes the ink. So put the corners down, go down a little lower. There we go. But you have to be careful when you're inking that if you get a little exuberant like I did, it's going to go on and it'll stay on, but that's okay. You won't notice it. Now, one thing I want to show you is I like this Love is in the Air, and I was trying to figure out how I can make that work with the cut apart I used, and I just couldn't. But the title of this paper is called Love is in the Air, so I cut the title out and it fit perfectly here. So what I did is I put it there, I glued it down, I turned it over, and I cut. And then I inked up the outside of this with the Picked Raspberry, and again I think it came out really good. So I will put this down. I liked using the picked raspberry on the outside. It added some definition to this heart. I need to glue that down a little bit. And then I fussy cut this airplane out of one of the 4x6 cut aparts. I did not cut all of the inside. You know, you can see there's still that plaid in there, but that's okay because I used the plaid background. Now, as long as I have the plaid straight up and down, if it's like this way, you sort of notice where the plaid is. At least I do. Let me there. So I need to have it as straight up and down as I can. So I think that's pretty good. And I want to, of course, read most of the love is in the air. It's okay if you don't read it all. You know, your brain will assume that that's what it says. So as straight as I can be with that. There, that's where it's going to be. I'm holding down one side. I'll add glue to this other side around the edges. And put that down. Perfect. I want to make sure there's enough glue here because it's the edge. Okay. I'm turning this upside down so I can add the extra glue over to this part. And put that down. Use my bone folder to make sure it goes down all the way. And I see some seepage, so I'm going to use my it's a baby wipe that has been cleaned a little to get all of the extra lint off and then dried. There, that looks good. And one extra thing, since there were 2 cut aparts in the collection, I cut out some of the extra clouds, just this one and that one. I put some pop dots on the back of it. Going to take them off, or take the backing off of those. Just add a touch of glue to it just to make sure that it stays on. And I'm just putting the clouds exactly where they were on the original piece. And I'll do the same with the large one. So there we go. I think it looks pretty cute, huh? I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It was fun to do. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. So thank you so much for watching. Have a fabulous day.